Hello, my name is Brian Galebach, and I will be a guest commentator in this video for Dweebovision. I am a North American Scrabble expert, and in this video I am going to play Scrabble while providing in-game commentary on my moves. Hopefully this will help to improve your game and be fun to watch. I will be playing this game with the North American Tournament word list and the double challenge rule, in which a lost challenge results in a loss of turn. The game is just about to start, so let's join the action. Alright, it's me to go first, and I have a blank, and I believe I have some playable bingos now. I see Enolace right off the bat, but that would place an S. It would be great if I could use a more uncommon tile or duplicate a tile I have on my rack, so I'm just going to look really quickly for something other than Enolace. Alright, and I'm not going to spend too much time here at this early part of the game. In fact, I'm going to go through really quickly rather. Okay, I'm just going to play Enolace, I believe. Alright, I'm not seeing anything else. Alright, now where can I place this? E-N-O-L-A-S-E. That looks like a good place. Alright. Good start in this game. Now, what can I play here? I have a W and a Y, high point tiles. I'd like to get rid of those. My remaining tiles, this combination would be rather bingo-y, these 5 tiles here. The G is the least bingo-y of those. Alright, so now I made sure not to place any of my vowels next to double letter squares as a defensive play. So now I could play something like yaw. 24. That leaves me with only one vowel, though. It would be nice if I could use just the Y and the W. Now I could do that with Y-O, with yow, but that doesn't score many points. I do want to keep scoring points. I could also play, no, I can't play yaw there, but I could play way here. 27 points. That's a better score. I'm not sure I'm going to be able to score much more than this. I think the extra points makes it worth having a slightly imbalanced rack. Now, let me just look very quickly, make sure we're not missing a bingo. Through the E, do I have anything? I don't think so. How about through the N? It almost looks close to something, but not quite. I don't think I have anything through the O. Alright, so I'm inclined to play yaw. Or way, rather. Must play all valid words. Alright, that looks like regatta. See if we can find a place to play that. Now this takes a front O. I don't have an O. Right now there's a floating E and a floating N. Well, regatta plays here right now in column 6, so hopefully that doesn't end up being blocked. Now, there's not a lot of places to play on this board, so it's likely it will get blocked. So that's one bingo place. Do I have another? Not that I can tell. How about through this E? I don't see a bingo through the E. I'm not seeing anything going to the N either. Now, way takes a front A. So that's not really a blocker if you have an A here. I might have a double-double through this N. Just going to look at 6 tile combinations and imagining an N on this rack. Great. Well, that doesn't block regatta. Now, I just want to look real quick here, make sure that didn't open up any other possibilities. I don't believe it did. I don't see anything through the D or the O or the B. So I'm going to go with regatta. All right, 72 points. Now I draw the Q, but I have on my rack, I have fakir, F-A-Q-I-R, one of the non-U-Q words in the Scrabble dictionary. Would that play anywhere, however? Now I notice I can place my Q here for 21 points. Where else can I play the Q? I don't see a place to play fakir. Now I could just play QI above the D. That would be more points than just playing a Q here. That would again, though, leave me with a high consonant rack leave. Now I also could play Kadi or Cade. Cade would not be as strong because that would place the Q into the triple lane here on the top row. So Kadi is a possibility. Chi here making id. I think those would both score now. All right, that I was thinking that gives me a place for fake here, but it does not. FO is not a word, only OF. Azo takes a back N. I don't have an N. All right, so let's take a look at some of these plays here. QI scores 28. Kadi also scores 28, but that uses both vowels, so QI would be better. I also could play QI for 21. All right. Now I mustn't forget about this double-double possibility. It almost looks like I could get something through there, but probably not with this tile combination. I would need a consonant here. That doesn't look likely. Okay, so what do I want to do? I think QI looks like the sensible play here. All right. I draw an S, which is good. Now, azo does not take a back S. I believe that pertains to some sort of chemical group. It's an adjective. Now, it would be useful to get rid of some of the high point tiles here so I can quickly get to a bingo rack. I have the K and the F I'd like to use for scoring some points if possible. Looking how I can do that. Well, now kerf is a word, K-E-R-F. I could play that here for 27 points. That's a little non-defensive in that it opens up this triple lane, but I do have an S to put on the front of kids, so that might not be a terrible play. Okay, so 27. Looking where else can I play the F and or the K for high points. Not seeing a lot on this board right now. Well, I kind of like this curve play, partially because I have the S and I might be able to make a play here on the next turn. So I'm going to give this a try, see what happens. All right, I have duplicated G and I pulled a U as well. So I'm going to be looking to clean this up, getting rid of some of my duplicated and undesirable tiles. Now I could play ig, as in ignore. That would only be 20 points. looking here at this S spot. All right, my opponent takes that for only 23 points, so that's not a high score on the part of my opponent. But it does block Ig. What else can I do? This is still a spot for an A, but I don't see a good way of scoring there. I need to get rid of at least one G. That's a given here. I would also like to get rid of a U if I can. Well, I could just play bug. That's going to be a very low number of points. Playing GUI would also be good. Okay, I'm just going to scan the board here real quickly, looking for spots on the board where I can actually score. I don't have a letter that goes there. This takes a front A. That doesn't seem to help me a lot. I could do my Ig play here. That would be 16 points. A G goes here. I'm close to Guayak if I had an A to play through. There are not many floaters on this board. Alright, just looking for vertical plays here. Alright. Well, I'm not seeing very much on this board. Ig is not terrible in that it does get rid of... I also could do Gig here. That's only 12 points. Be nice if I could get rid of a U, though. How can I get rid of a U? Not seeing an easy way to do that. Okay, I think I'm going to go with Ig. I don't like keeping the U, however, but I'm not seeing a lot that's great right now. This does create another S hook, which I like. I'm close to... Looks like I was close to Adjucus? Caduus. There's something that's like that. I'm not quite thinking of it. Now, I might want to take out some of these S hooks here that I'm creating. I have the S. I'd also like to use this S hook for scoring if I can. A caudus. A-C-A-U-D-O-U-S. If I had a U to play through, I think that means not having a tail, but I may be getting that confused with a caudal. All right, anyway, there's not many floaters, so I'm not going to rack my brain thinking about possible 8s here. This does not look like a 7, so I need to instead figure out how to score, and also if I could use the U, a duplicated A. All right, I notice there's still a blank remaining unseen and 3 S's, so my opponent is likely to have an S as well. Now, that creates... Okay. Just bear with me for 1 second here. I need to... I have some updates going on and it's really slowing down my computer. I need to get rid of those. And here's another one. All right. Sorry about that interruption. All right, now, where was I? I'd like to use an A and a U if I can. I was just noting that this takes an O. I have an O. A D can go here, or an S. I'd prefer to use the D. It would be nice if I could use an A too. I'm not seeing how to do that. Well, I could just play COD. 27 points. That's a terrible leave, though. Now, can I do something with the U instead? I don't see how to do that. All right, I have duplicated A. Now I have duplicated S. All right, I wanted to really use that spot. 51 points for my opponent. All right, now J-O takes a back E. It does not take a back S. Now I could play Vasa for 20 points, leaving S-U-N. That's not too bad. I clear up both of my duplicated tiles. I'm keeping the U, which is not fantastic, but I think my rack is improving somewhat. All right, this looks more promising. Is this a 7-letter bingo? Not that I can tell, but it looks like it might be an 8 with the right bingo. Now, there's a floating B. I don't think that helps. Bear with me 1 second. I'm just going to... All right. Ovine. My computer is still... I still have some processes that are taking up a lot of computer resources. I'm going to try and see if I can quit those in a second. Now, I believe this takes a back L. I don't have a back L. I still have a 50-point lead. Now, this takes an E. An S could go here, but I don't have any, there's nothing that goes in back of a C. I'm just looking at this spot for a high point possibility. I don't have many high point tiles right now. Now, a U does go here, so that might be useful. I could play... Wait, I don't have a letter that goes in front of I. But I could play Udo for just 13 points, but look at that rack leave sign. That's an excellent rack leave. If only this board was a little more open to bingos, that might be more attractive. But my opponent is trailing. My opponent may have to open up a bingo lane. And if my opponent does that, I will have possibly an excellent rack to come back with a bingo. So I'm going to give this a try, hoping that my opponent opens up the board. Well, I don't draw good tiles to go with sign. I duplicated my I and I draw a Y, which is not a bingo-y tile. Now I still have a 60-point lead. I'll be looking to, now a Y goes here, E goes here, so I could do something like yen. That would be a high number of points. Hopefully my opponent does not take that spot. If that spot is taken, what else can I do? Well, a Y goes here. I need to use at least one I. Where do I's fit on this board? It's a pretty tight board. So I was hoping my opponent would open up the board for a bingo lane, but given what I just drew, I'm not hoping for that. I'm actually hoping for my yen play. That would leave a duplicated I, but I don't see a way that I can score with the Y here and play off an I. Now I could play yin right here for 19 points. That leaves a juicy spot here for a high point tile for an H or a P, which my opponent might have. Okay, my opponent used that L hook, Lineac, and now I can play yen here. Now that does open up a bingo lane though, but this is going to give me a lot of points. 42 points. Well, that's enough points to compensate for other considerations. So I'm going with this even though it leaves a duplicated I. All right. Still have the duplicated I. Now an H and an M. What other high point tiles are remaining? Just these P's. So I might actually want to think about opening up something that could leave a juicy spot here for either the H or the M. But I can't do that without also making it available for the P, because all I have is an I, and that would take all three of those letters in front of it. All right, instead, maybe I want to try and block these new bingo lanes that were created. Okay, let's see what this did here. That's very blocky because TO does not take a front hook. I still have a 50-point lead, so if I can block bingo lanes, how can I best do that? I want to use an I if I can. I have an S for pluralizing joy. I think blocking bingos should be my top priority at this point. So let's look and figure out how can I best do that. N does not take a letter after it that I have. I'm looking down here mostly. I have an I that goes here, but if I put an I here, well, I could play, well, no. I need to play something that ends in IM. IH is not in many words. Also IN. Amen. That looks like a pretty good play. 22 points, and that blocks a lot of bingo lanes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. My opponent still may have a bingo in this lane, but this blocks things up considerably. I like it a lot. All right, I draw another S. That means my opponent does not have an S. My opponent could have the blank that's remaining here in the unseen pool. Now, I could play something like sushi. That would be very blocking. And it looks like my opponent is going to need a bingo to win. Looking at the unseen tiles, these do look pretty bingo-y, other than the fact that there are only 4 vowels remaining in the 14 unseen tiles. The 7 is 7 in the bag plus 7 on my opponent's rack. So just 4 vowels and 1 blank remaining in 14 tiles. So it's a little consonant heavy. And I should keep that in mind when I'm making plays so I don't use all of my vowels. Not that I have that many of them to begin with. Sushi seems like the best play I've seen so far. It'd be 17 points, but more importantly than the number of points is that, all right, well, now there are again 2 bingo lanes available. Actually, this one is not going to be very likely. My opponent would need to start with the blank as, well, an A also goes there. Now, how would I be able to make a play here that would not create another bingo lane? I'm not sure I can do that very easily. There are 4 tiles left, so a 3-tile play would be ideal if I could do it. I don't need to worry too much about the number of points I'm scoring. I have a 40-point plus lead. I have 2 S's. Now, where's the more dangerous bingo spot? Probably this D lane. I don't want my opponent to get a bingo here. This is going to be difficult to score in. I'm not seeing a good way, though, to block this bingo lane. I was trying to think of something I could put in front of Anna, but I'm not seeing a way to do that. Well, looks like I should make a 3-point tie. Okay, let's say I make a 3-point play here. Say I play his, and that has the advantage of blocking any bingos here. Joy's does not take a back hook. It uses 3 tiles. Scores 26 points is a good score. If my opponent bingos, which is unfortunately rather likely, they would bingo here. That would leave me an I spot here, so I could come back with a good counterplay here. I like the points. Even if my opponent bingos, I may be able to hold on for the win. Okay, before I do this, I just want to look again and see if I can figure out a way to... See, the problem is, the only thing I could do here that would totally block bingos is id. But maybe that's worth doing. I have a 40-point lead. I can afford some point leakage here at this point. I don't believe my opponent is going to bingo here. This is difficult. ID, that would be difficult. This makes it the most bit difficult for my opponent to bingo. I think it's just so likely my opponent is going to bingo if I play his that I'd rather try to block a bingo. So even though this is 4 points, this is what I'm going with. All right, we'll see how this works out. And after the game, we'll analyze and see what did my opponent have and would they have bingoed if I had played his. Now, there's 3 tiles left in the bag. The advantage here with the tiles dwindling is I'm soon going to be able to tell what my opponent has. That will enable me to play better defense. Now, I only have 95 seconds. So I'm going to want to play rather quickly. But I also want to play accurately. So what's my opponent likely to do? He's going to probably try to open up another bingo lane. If instead he empties the bag, then I just go for score, and that will be rather easy. My opponent has 8 minutes to consider his play. All right, so I still have sushi. I could also play sushis, plural. No, I can't because sushi uses 2 S's. That would leave LR. Where can LR play? So at this point, I'm going to look for different scoring opportunities on this board. That will be helpful at the end of the game when I'm trying to play quickly. I don't think I have anything to the ID. Pun takes a front S. Ode takes a front L. But then the TO doesn't take anything. All right, so I've identified sushi. That uses both S's. It would be nice to just use one S if I can. His is a lot of points. T takes a back I. I only takes a back S. Not a lot here. Should look for words to pluralize with my S. Skid is a possibility. Skids. I could play US. US takes a front N, which my opponent could have, and also may have the blank. I don't want to open up another bingo lane. That would be contraindicated. E takes a back L. And H would not fit here in front of the T very well. I could play silt. Trode. Okay, that opens up a bingo lane here. So if I can block this one, I don't believe that my opponent will have a bingo opportunity. Now there's one tile left, so it's important for me to block all bingo lanes here. Just looking here, SE 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We need to start with SA or SE. Now if I don't block this T, it's very likely my opponent is going to bingo there. So I believe I want to block this. I'll take my chances with this bingo lane, which looks difficult. Not impossible. Now at this point I can't just go for score. So okay. And hopefully my opponent does not score a bingo here. I don't see one. All right, and at this point I have a 50-point lead, so I just need to score as much as I can. Now I'm not going to bother looking for a bingo for my opponent because if he gets the bingo, the game will be over. So I'm just going to look for scoring points for myself. Well, I already saw a list. That would be 14 points. Not bad. I also have the S spot here. I could do 20 points there. So using LIS and keeping an R. R goes here, Uer. Where else can an R go? R. So I can't get stuck with the R. And I have 2 spots for the LIS. Do I have a way to use all 4 tiles? My opponent has 5 minutes left. It makes sense for my opponent to use all the time he can to see if he can find a bingo. It would not make any sense not to be sure if you don't have a bingo when you have 5 minutes remaining. It's tempting for me to look and see if my opponent has a bingo, but I will be able to just examine after the game to see if he has a bingo and save my time right now for finding the best plays I can with my remaining 16 seconds. Well, I believe I've identified list here, LIS here, as my 2 plays with the LIS, and then leaving the R. So I don't really have a lot more to think about. I'll just scan the board, see if I can find any better places. Well, I also have Sir here, leaving L. That scores 15 points. But Ewer with the R is better score than anywhere I think I can score for the L. So using SIL is probably better for a 2-play sequence. I'm not likely to get 2 plays anyway, because my opponent is likely to go out in 2. That's 20 points. That's 14 points. Sir is 15 points. Elaterid. Okay. Well, that's a valid play, but that's not a bingo. All right. So I'm going to play LIS, leaving the R. That's a nice find by my opponent going to the ID. It's disappointing for my opponent that he did not find a bingo. I'm sure he's disappointed over that. My opponent has an N, so is likely to just be able to play that out anywhere. So I'm going to have in is valid, and let's see. Is that the, did I get the right? All right, looks like my opponent left rather quickly. So the final score here is 359 points for my opponent, 394 points to me, a winning margin of 35 points. Let's examine the game and see what we missed. All right, and we need to go back to command. All right. So here I started off with the Enolace rack. What other bingos did I have? Just Enolace. Okay, that's surprising that that's the only bingo. Oh, I'm glad I spotted that. Here I started getting some high point tiles. Look at that, Twanger as a double-double in row E. Now, why wasn't I considering a double-double here? I should have been. I didn't. Instead, I played Way for 27 points. I think I got focused on my high point tiles and trying to get rid of them and didn't look for that double-double, which you should look for. All right, and here I found Regatta. That was the only bingo. All right, so I'm glad that spot was not blocked. Here I had the Faker rack, but nowhere to play that. QI for 28, that is what I did. Here I could have played Crafts, M2. All right, I see, playing through here. 40-point play, leaving EG. That's a pretty good score. I also could have played just Craft for 33. That also seems like a pretty good play. What did I do? I did Kerf. That doesn't seem quite as good, although I am leaving this S spot here, but then unfortunately I didn't end up capitalizing on that spot before my opponent got to it. I ended up with duplicated G's and an I and a U. What could I do with that? Ig, that was my play. Hard to believe that that is the best play, but well, that's what the computer likes as well, so I feel pretty good at least considering that play. Juco. All right, that's opening things up, though. At this point, I'm up in score, so I don't really necessarily want to open up the board too much. What do I play instead? I play cod. That's a little bit more blocky, and it creates an S hook, but I have the S. And here's where my opponent got the great tush play for 51 points, drawing somewhat closer. Okay, I could have played Savant for 24. That's not a fantastic score. That puts an S in the triple lane. I don't like that play. What did I do instead? Vasa. That's a board closing play, which I like a lot considering the score. So I like this play a lot. Now, this is at 11K. Here's some other plays from 11. I could have instead done Vase. That's a way to use the U. That's a superior play in this same area for a same number of points and using the U for a better leave. So that would have been a better play. This looks close to a bingo, but I don't think there was one. There was not. Now, I could have played joined D10. Well, that again really opens things up. That does not seem indicated with the score. This play was to clean up the rack and keeping things very closed. It's not one of the suggestions here. Now, I could have done Aud for an additional 2 points. That would have been a little better than Udo. I didn't consider Aud, so that would have been a little better. All right, now my opponent is trying to open things up, and at this point, I want to close things down. Now, I could have played Yen for 42 points. Oh, I think I do that, don't I? Yes, I couldn't pass up that number of points. And now, 10 tiles left. What was my consideration here? I'm trying to block things up, so that's why I played a min. That is the second suggestion of the computer. The first suggestion is from 13A, playing hymns. I don't like that as much, even though it's a lot more points, because it just leaves these bingo lanes open. I like closing these bingo lanes. And now at this point, my opponent is trying to open bingo lanes. So plays pad. That's a good play by my opponent. And I agonized a while over what to do here. I ultimately decided on id. Now, the computer is not considering the board situation and the score situation. It's just looking at score plus leave. So I saw his, but I rejected that for the 4-point id to block. Now, if I had not blocked that, I think my opponent would have had something to the D. Now, re-entered. That's a 9. But that looks like something that would play to a D. Well, unfortunately, there's no way for me to show plays as if the I were not there. Re-rented. I wonder if that's good. In any case, this looks very bingoing. It looks like something that would have possibly bingoed there. So I like my decision to block that. Let's see if my opponent has any bingos. Not with this I here. So that's good. My opponent opens up another bingo lane. And I block this one. I'm going to show plays. This is just, again, just only considering score. If I do that and don't block the T, I believe my opponent will probably have a bingo. So I play Hurst. That definitely looks like something that's going to play through the T. So that has to be blocked. Now, blocking this, did my opponent have a bingo here? No, there was no bingo available. So I think this is the right decision to block here. No bingo for my opponent. My opponent finds the very nice Elaterid for the most points he can get. And I have Lees for 20, which I played, and my opponent could have played Azon for 13, but in any case, that would not have been a winning play. Anyway, that was a very interesting game. The ending was extremely exciting in terms of strategy and trying to figure out how to best block the most bingo lanes or the most likely bingo lanes on the board. At a certain point in the game, you have to decide what's the most important. Is it scoring? Is it blocking bingo lanes? I also had a decision. I could have made a 3-point play, leaving one in the bag, giving my opponent a possible bingo, and then trying to duke it out. So I had an interesting choice there in terms of two different game branches, and I chose the branch of trying to block bingos, which in this game worked. If you remember my game from last week, my opponent had 2 bingo lanes. I blocked one, but he would have bingoed in either place. So in any case, I hope you got a lot out of watching this game, and I hope you enjoyed it. My name is Brian Galebach. Thank you for watching. This has been a video for Dweebovision.